Welcome to NeuroNoodle's Neurofeedback and Neuropsychology Podcast, featuring tech legend Jay Gunkelman. He's the man who has read well over 500,000 brain scans, and Dr. Marie Swingle, author of iMinds. Our goal is to provide information and promote options for better mental health. The NeuroNoodle Podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you.
So far, so good.
Jay Gunkelman.
Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Jay. Long time no see. Thank you for coming back.
This seems like it was just yesterday.
they beat us up pretty good on Wednesday nights in that Q&A.
Oh, that's okay. That's what it's for, So,
speaking of beating up, Billy Joel and Ozzy. Let's start with Billy Joel. What is pressure hydrocephalus, NPH?
Normotensive hydrocephalus.
Okay.
Basically you can have the ventricles, the fluid-filled voids in your head that aren't filled of neurons and tissue, are filled with cerebrospinal fluid, and that cerebrospinal fluid can occupy more and more and more space, which is hydrocephalus, and that can be because of very high pressure. And some of them can be relatively normal pressure, normotensive hydrocephalus. And you can start to look demented, start to have difficulty walking, difficulty with speech, regressive mental function and so forth because of the hydrocephalus. And all they have to do is put in a shunt to relieve the pressure, and bingo, you're back. So it's a devastating condition if you have it undiagnosed. If you have it and they diagnose it, it's quite treatable. But at some point when you're a performer and you start to end up having, bits and pieces of your ability to perform fade away, you've got a choice of when to pull the plug on standing up and performing. Not everybody comes up like Joni Mitchell and hits one out of the park after decades of not performing. Like anything, there's a time and a place to retire. So,
Dr. Marie Swingle, is that you? What country are you in?
I am back in Canada, but apparently without a camera.
I like your red
Is this a sensor saying that we can't see what you're doing? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Early morning with Dr. Mari. Woohoo!
So can neurofeedback help out Billy Joel, Jay?
Well, the hydrocephalus is best treated with the traditional placement of a ventricular peritoneal shunt, a tube that goes into your ventricles that has a little pump on it, basically, the newer ones, not just a tube to drain pressure, but actually has a little pump, and it drains into your peritoneum, the lining of your stomach, and you absorb the fluids there. And, normally your cerebrospinal fluid is supposed to circulate and be reabsorbed. Well, mine just leaks right out my freaking nose, I don't know how much of it circulates. There may be some, but I know a lot of it drips, So, but he's I don't have to worry about normotensive hydrocephalus needing a shunt. I just leak, so I'm never going to have it. Instead of being so pathological, there's some pathologies that can't sneak up on you.
So Billy Joel not so bad off, comparably, relatively, or?
Well, it's not a dire circumstance. It's not a great thing to have it again, but have it and have it diagnosed and treated. Now you're doing reasonably well. So, it may be time for him to peel back on booking big events. not to say that he couldn't diddle around on a piano at home or have some fun with friends over or something, but the that there's a difference at, at at some point in your time of pulling off a full-blown performance. Suisun Summit coming up here in town. I can't make all performances for all days. I don't have it in me anymore. I used to be able to go on and on and on for days, artificial, energy being what I have, but my physical body just can't take that. I can't do that anymore. So you have to, you know, and hell, I'm 76 this year, so Billy Joel's not a spring chicken. He's more like a fall chicken, more like me, So he's got to make his decision as to when he pulls the plug on his major public performances, and it's probably a reasonable time to make that choice.
Okay, and then Ozzy Osbourne, he went from doing his last show to no mas with Parkinson's.
Well,
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad.
He had a show in Fargo many years ago. I think 18 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And the Fargo police decided that this was a perfect opportunity to prank all the people that had outstanding warrants. And they sent all these people backstage passes and free access to the pre-show, and they, 50, 80 people with outstanding warrants all pop in for the pre-show and got rounded up by the police and taken away. And Ozzy didn't take kindly to that. He thought that, not all of his fans are ruffians to be rounded up, and all of that. But the Fargo police thought it was quite a good joke. And they still have memorabilia in a case on the wall with the shirt. They had a fake radio station doing the promo. I mean, if you looked at your invitation, there was a Spider-Man who had some like handcuffs with him. There were hints in there. If you weren't just uh, uh, eager to take in some Ozzy Osbourne for free early or something. Anyway, the Fargo police rounded up a number of people on warrants, and a couple of people actually turned themselves in, saying, "Hey, if you're going to go to that kind of an extent, I'm just going to turn myself in." So
that's your version of the Rolling Stones and Hell's Angels in Oakland.
Well, why shouldn't they be in Oakland? Have you been to Oakland? Oakland has its
only
own,
in October.
It's a life-changing experience to go through Oakland. Sometimes it's a life extending, sometimes it's a life ending, but it's quite the experience. I have friends who grew up in Oakland are quite proud of having grown up there because they grew up and actually made it out successfully. It's a rough neighborhood, but there's a lot of interesting cultural stuff in Oakland. You can find kinds of foods in Oakland from countries you don't even know about, So it's a great cultural mix, but it's a tough neighborhood too. Fargo's not an easy neighborhood either. If you go by the movie,
Stay away from the wood chippers.
I grew up there. I thought it was pretty idyllic. I didn't see any of these murderous, thuggy things.
So for these rock stars, Jay, for these rock stars, can you think brain brightening, can it help, keep things going?
The higher the performance you want to be, the more likely you are to need a tune-up.
Yeah.
And let's say you're going to Indianapolis 500. Your car is going to get tuned up so many times it's like 10 cars lifetimes worth of tune-ups just in the few weeks before the event. They'll be tweaking little tiny things to try and eke the highest performance out. If you're going to try to be an optimal performer, you might want to have your brain looked at because there's ways to optimize it.
Recording in progress.
Hello, everybody.
Dr. Marie, good to see you.
Same. Nice to be back. Yeah. No, I would love to comment on this section because, for whatever reason, we don't put artists in the same classification as we put elite athletes, executives, etc. It's that plus more because there's that whole creative element. I'm so proud to share that I work with numerous artists and helping them stay on top of their game, depending on what type of artist as well. People get into blocks, an executive, okay, they scratch their head a little bit and they kind of work through things. But whether you're an artist, a writer, a musician, what have you, it just a joy to work with these individuals. But when they're on the top of their game, the drain, the brain drain, the creative battery really constantly needs to be powered up. Now, I also don't think there's any coincidence if you look at some of the personalities and the Energizer Bunny characteristics of some of our elite artists. So anyone from Ozzy Osbourne to brain fart here, Robin Williams. These people are on. Reportedly, John Kerry is like that as well. That these people are just on, incredibly busy-brained people. So some of them need assistance with the quieting. Others need assistance with some alpha peak performance, or just really getting them in that zone, almost fugue zone of alpha. So I can chew anybody's ear on off of this. We do not talk about it enough. We talk about ADHD, we talk about depression, anxiety. We don't talk about this magnificent, the brains of peak performance and artistry. Jay, do you want to jump in here? Because this is I can go on and on.
Imagine the amount of energy that it takes to put on some of the performances that you see.
Yeah.
Rolling Stones are kind of at the upper edge of that, jumping and, running back and forth across the stage and, and well, how old are they?
Yeah.
That they've got people performing that say that we need to protect the atmosphere because we have to give them the world. They're going to live forever, and they won't, but they're out doing it and kicking it at an age where most people are rocking it back and forth in a chair, not rocking it out, so.
Yeah. And the brains of these peak performers are just wow. Yeah. This is where I don't want to get political about this, but when we talk about normative databases, like just throw them out, and you do not want to correct some of the anomalies you see because that's absolutely part of their genius. So to all the parents out there, be really, really cautious about what you train out. This will drive teachers insane because these kids are literally bouncing off the walls because these brains are magnificent. But if you put the right, I call it direction as opposed to correction and some fine tuning, my God, the young adults these people become are fantastic.
So years ago at a meeting, there was a panel discussion about databases, and everybody who owned a database was up there describing the features of their database and the things you could do a little different with theirs and something else. Mm-hmm. And they all had interesting points about their database and others, and I'm running around like a fool in the audience with a microphone gets in the questions on, so the questions are recorded on the recording as well. So I'm Phil Donahue in the audience running back and forth with a microphone. And it comes to about 5 minutes left in the session, and there's no one else asking questions in the audience, and I have the microphone.
Uh-oh.
Holy shit. This is the moment, So I look at the panel, I thank them for presenting about their normative database.
Yeah.
And then I turn to the audience and I see on the aisle about 3 rows back, there's Roy John sitting there. And I said, you've got a normative database, and normative is an important concept, but I'm seeing Roy John here, and I'm thinking, Roy's not normal.
Yeah.
Roy's exceptional. He's outstanding. He's unbelievably unique. Why would we not want to have a database of Roy Johns, a unique peak performer database, as opposed to a normative database? So I only ate up maybe 2 minutes of my 5 minutes. The last 3 minutes were the panelists all going, that's the unstated question about normative databases. What the hell are you looking at?
Yeah.
If you average a bunch of phenotypes together, you get this statistical mean.
Melting pot. Yeah.
And standard deviation statistic, which is statistics from the 1950s. Normative Gaussian stats. What the hell are we? Univariate statistics. What's happening at one electrode? Well, first of all, nothing happens at one electrode. It's going to happen with field and phase around it if it's real. Yeah. And you can't characterize a multivariate system with a whole bunch of univariate measures. The multivariate is greater than the sum of the univariate measures. The patterns within the univariate database data ends up being something you don't see in univariate statistics. So if the right half of my brain is half a z-score high in delta and the left is half a z-score low, everything looks fine in normative world. Well, half a z-score off the mean, everything's fine. But if one half is fast and one half is slow, you are not doing very well. That multivariate pattern is highly abnormal, even though every univariate measure within it is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. I'm going to continue on with my version of the diatribe because we don't talk about this enough. We talk, it doesn't make clinical sense and it doesn't make mathematical or statistical sense either. Now we can ding, ding, ding commercial interest. The Swingle clinical database. We have the 2025, 2026 version that we're working with now. But when I talk about, just when I'm talking with parents in general, my example is Einstein, because everybody knows who the heck Einstein is. Einstein is not normal, not normative. You don't want to train your Einstein out if you see it. And then when you're talking with clients, I use the mood line, so to speak, that your normative is, in the middle, nice even move, and it goes all the way to depression, all the way out to euphoria. Okay. So you have to be able to see completely and totally where you are on that line. The other one, if we want to talk about excitation versus depression. Okay. Of course, Jay can go on and on about where it is in the brain. So can I, et cetera, et cetera. But if you look at the excitation and how it expresses itself, yeah, but excitation on one person can be this extreme, if we're talking about artists or scientists, this extreme phase of production and like fantastic brain body act.
Jay, Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, 81 years of age. Keith Richards has lived his life, I would say, the opposite way that you live your life. Mick Jagger does work out quite a bit, so I could see
he's got people that pay attention to his diet and his exercise and all of it. He's trying his best to keep his motor tuned. On the other hand, I don't know that everyone in the band is going with that. I think some are trying kind of the electric Kool-Aid acid test approach to seeing how things work.
But 81 running up and down the stage, Jay, that's
Hey, you know, if I make it to 81, I hope I'm still scrambling around too, But I'm having trouble now at 76,
Well,
I'm doubting that I'll be able to attend my entire meeting. Everybody in the world coming here to the town, I'll be there part of each day, but I don't have it in me to. Uh, there's not that much left of me. Keith Richards is doing better than me, so.
yeah,
so.
yeah.
well, you
Now,
are the Keith Richards of neurofeedback.
yeah. Well, I mean, Jake, can you hear me? First of all, am I here? I'm
You're
here.
there.
Okay, good. Yeah, but I mean, this really, really enforces, if you do what you love, okay, and if you have passion, one of the arguments for, don't retire, people who stay active and continue tend to be much more physically healthy and mentally healthy. And bless you, Jay, you're an anomaly. I mean, knock on wood, and I don't mean this to say meanly, but, with the condition you have, you should have been dead decades ago, right? So there's some kind of magical force within you called loving what you do, keeping you with us. So
I consider being dead already quite freeing,
Okay. Yeah.
It's I don't have to worry about very much,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But again, when you're working with individuals who come in, whether you want to call it a depression or a midlife crisis or this, that, and the other, it's like, okay, what is your life doing for you? What are you doing for your life? Get some passion back, right? And well, I can go on and on. I can go into.
And it's not about how many years you make it, too. I mean, my brother texted this morning, and he had a serious talk with his doctor, and it's serious. And his doctor asked him the question, so do you want extended quality of life or quantity of life?
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Yeah.
And he said he's going to have to go back and have a serious talk with the doctor and give him an honest answer.
Yeah.
But it's to the point of deciding, which kind of treatment, one that keeps you here longer maybe, but has, chemo negative impact on quality, or one that maintains some quality, but you don't, with one med you might have a couple of years, with a couple of them you might make it 3 or 4, but you might make it like 5 or 6 if you have the chemo.
This is the cancer dilemma for everybody. I mean, we see this all the time. Also, I really don't like the way they calculate cancer survival rates in that regard. It doesn't speak any truth. Speaking specifically of females with breast cancer, if you live 5 years past your diagnosis, you were quote unquote cured. But they don't say that 4 of those 5 years were absolute torture, versus if, and then you die on year 5 plus 3 days, versus the choice of, okay, this is my lot. I have 3 years left and I'm going to live it to the fullest. I mean, what choices for people to make? And I do know our North American medical system, to a certain extent, most of the Western world, pushes for life no matter what the quality of life. Yeah. And in fact, sues people when they don't offer that option.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps improve the content and brings on great guests and grow the show. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/NeuroNoodle. But hey, if supporting financially isn't in the cards right now, no worries. You can still help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. It really makes a difference and helps more people find the show. If we've earned it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
My brother's son is a medical doctor, and had a discussion with him, basically saying that the cancer from 20 years ago, which was treated effectively, again, successfully,
Yeah.
but now there's metastatic spread to the bone. Now, but it's
Okay.
20 years later, so
That was a
uh,
good. That was a good deal. That was a good exchange.
yeah. Now,
Yeah.
bone cancer is slow,
Mm.
and he's a little bit older than I am.
Yeah.
And at our age, if you look at the statistics, a male makes it to about 82.
Mm-hmm.
And if he takes the lesser of two evils and doesn't take the stuff that's going to make him terribly sick, he'll make it to his expected 82.
Yeah.
You know, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason that there's an end point there at 82. I mean, that things fall apart and people pass.
Yeah.
Some earlier than others, and some of us you can't even beat us to death. I mean, I've done my best, slammed into walls,
Yeah.
motorcycle car head-on crashes. I've done my best, but I'm still kicking it somehow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jay, number one, sorry about your bro, man, but that's you guys you Gunkelmans, you run hard.
Yeah, he's a tough old bird. He went through the Naval Academy. He was a swimmer. He beat Mark Spitz. Not everybody can say that.
Uh-uh.
Anyway, he's an engineer. He's still working. He's a year and a half older than me, but he's still working. He's an engineer. I mean, he went through Naval Academy as an engineer, and he on the East Coast he inspects bridges and helps rebuild. He was part of the construction of one of the most recent new bridges in the United States out on the East Coast. He finished his half first, and they fired the guy that was in charge of the other half and put him in charge over there, and he finished it. So, he's a go-getter, ass-kicking engineer, and my family's got this thing about facial hair, I guess. He has a freaking handlebar, snidely whiplash, curled up mustache. And he came to visit, and he found that he had not packed his mustache wax. So we had to go find some Sally's Beauty Shop somewhere. They have it right on the front counter. He knows where to go. Anyway, he's as much of a character as I am, and only in his own way. We're different kinds of characters, but yeah.
So Jay, what is the brain fog you get from chemo, and how does neurofeedback help with it? I remember the efficacy is pretty decent on it.
Yeah. Chemotherapy ends up kicking your immune system, and you end up with inflammatory changes, and the inflammatory changes create ischemia. When the brain inflames, imagine if somebody punched you in the shoulder. The inflammation is going to swell the shoulder. Now, Pete, you've been whacked around in football, and somebody gives you a good solid hit. Something's going to swell up a bit. You jump in the ice cold water. You soak in the ice and rub it out. The trainers do those things. Well, your brain can't swell out. When it swells, it compresses things. And what's in there to compress? Fluid-filled things. Well, blood vessels. All the little tiny small vessels in the cortex are squeezed, and you don't get as much blood flow through them when they're squeezed. So you have ischemia. Ischemia is a decrease in the ability to deliver oxygen and glucose. It's not just simple flow. It's the ability to actually deliver something useful, oxygen and glucose, fuel, and enough oxygen to burn the fuel. So if you have ischemia, you're going to end up seeing the brain not working as well, and the alpha will have a slow edge to it. Instead of an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with a nice peak at 10, you're going to see that left-hand edge creep out into the 7, 8 or the 6, 7, 8. The peak may still be okay, but the edge kicks out to the ischemic side. Now, depending upon how severe the ischemia and how long-standing it is, it may create white matter change as well. Periventricular white matter change happens with chronic low-level ischemia. And they may dismiss it as age-related vascular change because when you get old, you get ischemic change. And if you have it long enough, you have white matter change. And they'll dismiss it quite often as age-related. It's age-related degradation. It's not healthy aging. So there's in aging, in looking at geriatrics, there's really two schools of thought. One is the statistical school of thought. What's normal at your age? Well, freak, at my age, death is fairly common, So
Let's go back to Mick Jagger
statistically,
yeah.
Is it the statistical average, or are you looking for a healthy person of your age, and somebody with optimal health? And the EEG quite often is interpreted as statistical average. And you see somebody in their 80s and they have intermittent 2 hertz slow waves temporally, bitemporal slow waves about 2 hertz. What is it? Well, usually cerebrovascular insufficiency. It could be read as normal variant, but the doctor really should tell you, you should have your EKG looked at. You might have a rhythm disturbance that's giving you insufficiency, on and off. And if it happens on at all, it's not a good thing. So let's get that turned off. Have your heart checked to make sure there's a good steady rhythm. Occasionally, you might need to have a pacemaker put in. We actually had a coworker who came. He was hired as a psychologist to do paper and pencil testing. You have to have somebody with a degree and license and all that to do the paper and pencil testing. So he was in the office doing, his job as a psychologist, and he sees all these EEG, QEEG things happening, and he's a little curious. I wonder what my brain looks like. So Ali just said, "Oh, have one of the techs record you and toss it in the stack, and the doctor will get you your report back next day. Jay's report will be there in about 4 or 5 days." And he was interested in going over my report with me. The doctor's report came back and said cerebrovascular insufficiency, and that was right there, same day or the next morning. And he didn't read that. Now he went out in public and over in San Jose area somewhere, he passed out. Heartbeat didn't go well enough, long enough, and he just passed out. They scooped him up and ran him into the ER. They did an EKG. They ran him straight in and put in a pacemaker. And he comes back a few weeks later, and we went over his data, and I said, "See, you could have known ahead of time. The doctor told you, you damn fool," and I'll take back your psychology degree if you don't do better than that next time, But, my report, and he says, "Well, this should have gone away now, right?" Yeah, that's right. "Well, go have the tech record another EEG. We'll look at it." So he had another EEG, recorded it, we looked at it, and they were fairly common, but they're rare now. But there's still a few of them there. I told him, "Well, you might want to see your cardiologist because they're not quite kicking in the pacemaker early enough to catch all of these." So he went to his cardiologist and he said, "I don't think you're catching them all." He said, "Well, why do you think that?" He said, "Well, they saw it in the EEG." And he said, "You can't see that on an EEG." Well, apparently he can't see it in the EEG. He's a cardiologist, he shouldn't be looking at EEG. He's a cardiologist, and he shouldn't be commenting on EEG. He's a cardiologist, But he said he was incensed that somebody in EEG would say that he hadn't set things right. So he looked, and he said, "Oh, well, that's right. We're not catching them all," and he made it a little bit more sensitive. So apparently, the thing we couldn't see and did see, he reacted to emotionally, but then he actually corrected the mistake of not quite having it set right, and got rid of the intermittent slow content temporally. That's cerebrovascular insufficiency. It's right there in the data if you know what you're looking at. A lot of people look at it and they say, "Oh, some artifact of some sort," but when you've seen 500,000 of them, you know what you're looking at a little bit more than if you've only seen a couple thousand, and
Jay,
And always remember, what we call artifact frequently is unknown. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be there or that it's not from the brain. Always look at artifact.
And the artifacts are meaningful quite often.
Very, very.
Oh, that's an EMG artifact. Well, it's happening 5 little twitches in a second. That's a Parkinson tremor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, now you got some meaningful data.
Yeah.
Oh, it's electrodermal, big slow sways all the way across. Well, this is sympathetic overflow. This person's anxious and has a sympathetic nervous system overactivity. You know, the artifact quite often ends up telling you something you need to work on.
Yeah. And even take it down to, quite a few levels to good old fashioned ADHD with a lot of movement artifact. That is a variable. When you're training that little munchkin and the artifact starts to go down, that is telling you something. So, I mean, it can be at the level that you were talking about, identifying Parkinson's versus, all the people we work with all the time with ADHD. So look at your artifact. And I say keep it in as a variable.
Yeah. I do de-artifacting, but there's times that I make note that this is something we need to put the artifact back in to show them what, the underlying problem is reflected in the artifact.
Yeah, everything we do when we do it, again, I'm going to reference the clinical Q. We print out 2 versions, artifacted, non-artifacted, and we always look at them literally side by side, right? Very, very important. Yeah, and I would even say that, if you can have a couple of screens on the full Q, look at them and you'll go, whoa, hey, wait a minute. Maybe that wasn't a true artifact. Maybe I should look at that. But seeing them side by side is really cool in that regard.
Well, the nice thing with ICA is you can click and make it come all back in.
Yeah.
And there are people that say that can't be done, that the ICA is irreversible. Once you've done it, you can't reverse it. Well, I do that all the time. I show people the artifact can come right back in. Boom, it's right back, So you can reconstruct the original EEG to a T. It's not distorted by reconstruction. So, that you can believe what you hear, or you can actually believe your damn eyes when you see it happen,
Now there's an idea.
So Jay, when you're getting chemo, you're sitting there for a few hours, right? Wouldn't you want to do neurofeedback?
And when you're getting chemo, I'm not getting chemo.
Okay. When somebody is getting...
I refuse all further treatment.
Okay, fair enough. But for the brain fog, do you have to wait till the chemo's done, then do the neurofeedback, or can you do both at the same time? You're just sitting there.
Chemo brain responds positively to hyperbaric and to neurofeedback and to gentle exercise and to a whole bunch of good things. And you shouldn't wait to do the good things until the very end. If you can get hyperbaric mixed in with your treatment, it ends up being a very good thing, because hyperbaric is a way to treat ischemia. The oxygen doesn't need to go along the blood vessel to get to the downstream cell. Once it's inside your body, it goes cell to cell, direct transfer. So hyperbaric is a way to have oxygen perfuse your tissue without having to flow through the blood vessels. And for instance, if you've got a wound, the hyperbaric will get oxygen to the wound, even though the blood flow in the wound area may be totally insufficient. Diabetics that are about to lose their feet, you can have diabetic wound care in hyperbaric. And, ischemia is there in diabetes. That's, the vascular degradation ends up being the reason that they lose their toes and feet and vision and everything else.
I was just asking, should you do, when you're doing chemo and you're sitting there and you have the headset on, you're doing whatever, should you combine these other things while you're doing it, or it just becomes too much for the person?
In fact, I think if you're just sitting there waiting for the chemo to, time to tick down, having a helmet on, doing a little bit of photobiomodulation wouldn't be a bad thing at all. But when you go into the doctor's office with something on your head, they're going to wonder what it is. If you're going into a hospital, bringing in a medical device into a hospital
They don't like
is
that.
not that easy. They want their medical people to go through it and make sure it's a safe and effective medical device, not just something that you're going to put on your head and electrocute the patient in the bed next to you or something. They're they're worrying about their own liability for not managing the access to medical devices within their institution. So
one of the things that we do is, as soon as you feel, because enough energy. So obviously you're not going to go in for neurotherapy the day after your chemo. So essentially when you have enough energy to get yourself to the clinic, we intersperse the neuro with the chemo, working exactly where Jay was saying in the alpha bandwidth, just to help bring down that fog.
Dr. Murray, give us an update on your app. We haven't seen you in a long time. What's been going on?
Yeah, well, I ran away to remote places where there's no internet, or it's even worse than it is for me usually. And yeah, we finished the calculations, the tabulations, the research, and we are writing up the how to use material. So the Focus app should be out in 2 weeks, and we are so proud of this, because I know people who work in this industry know that focus is not focus is not focus. So some people having trouble with focus, you give them a stimulant, or you do protocols for stimulation. Whoa, no, because the focus issue is actually an expression of anxiety, versus individuals who have all those slow waves and indeed need some audio stimulant or harmonic stimulant to help. So we've got all of those within the app, and my usual enthusiasm is tenfold. So around 2 weeks, folks, it'll be out.
What about the sleep? I got trouble sleeping. Got any?
Yeah, we have the insomnia app, literally called Sleep, that is out now, and we have the Brain Calm, and this is a quieting app without sedation, absolutely key. So it quiets individuals without the sedation. So yeah, so we've got the trifecta. Well, everything is going to be out in 2 weeks. Insomnia, the Sleep app is out, as is Brain Calm. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Pete.
And speaking of focus, I've been working on my focus too.
Love it.
It's only for distance, so if I'm at the computer, I don't use it, but it's hanging around my neck, so I can, if I have to see something at a distance, I can just pop it in.
October 8th, I want to nerd out. Where do I nerd out at, Jay?
Well, the Suisun Summit is a great spot. It's at the yacht club. A yacht club, they have yachts, but a lot of them don't. You don't have to own a yacht to be in the yacht club, but they like to party, and they've got a nice meeting hall for their sitting down dinners and so forth. So we take that over and set it up classroom style. It sits 80 people classroom style with a lot of elbow room, easy entry in and out of your seat. You don't have to get cramped in.
Not a lot of seats left.
And between we don't overshadow a talk with another talk immediately after it. We have a little bit of a break so that you can kind of cogitate about what you just heard and ask some questions or make some notes. Set up a time to meet with the speaker because they're going to be there for a few days. And as Lisa Tatrin said, her talk is difficult because she has to trim it down. She has so much material, And I said, well, the solution to that is that she has 2 talks, which helps, but there's 3 days, and there's plenty of time to debrief, not from the front of the stage, but with colleagues and all of that. So Suisun Summit, October 8th, is a social gathering where you get registered. And since it's this is my eye surgery year, so it's Gunkelman's Island. So it's like Gilligan's Island, and so you can expect the front entry to look like a grass hut. You can expect to walk in and have a lei placed around your neck. So come to Suisun Summit and get laid. You can hear it already, you know. I didn't even have to come up with that one. It was too obvious. The staff came up with that one, you know. Students, you know. And anyway, we intend to have a good time and share ideas back and forth. And one thing about having people with different ideas than you've got is that you end up cross-pollinating. And the hybridization ends up being a stronger gene pool than one that's incestually, you know, self-pollinating. So let's get there and trade some ideas back and forth and create bigger, better ideas.
And one of the things I love about this meeting is its size, and everybody is accessible. You're not waiting in queues to talk with people. You know, you just go up and yip yap in the bar or over lunch or whatnot. It's really positive in that regard.
It's a small town. You can't get lost in this town. You know?
We can try. We can try.
And Jay, one last thing for the people that say, hey, you know what, I'll get around to it. What do you got to say?
Well, you know, in Suisun Summit since 2018, we've been getting around to it for donating to students. And people that want to get around to it can come to the meeting, and if they get around to it, they can donate to students too. And these are pretty good sized. If I think you're not going to get around to it, boy, wee.
Put a few of those in a sock.
I did decide that I get the round one, not the star-shaped ones. You
Thank
know.
You. Don't go dark in your.
And I had one person suggest, what are these good for? And I said, well, you know, you could skip them across the harbor. And he said, well, it's a challenge coin. Who in the hell would throw away a challenge coin? And I said, well, maybe somebody who's got 100 of them. So, anyway, we hope to go there. We'll meet on the 8th in the evening, socialize a little bit, get our name tags and grass skirts and coconut bras and whatever all else is going to be around. And at that point, the 9th and 10th are meetings. The 11th is a meeting that stops at about 4 o'clock. We reset the building for a luau. The birthday dinner, luau, and fundraiser. And I think it's time to have a low overhead donation of a shave. So we'll see if anybody is ready to put down more than I'm ready to put down to keep it. I got a couple $1,000 to keep it. And if they put down more than that, they can get shave it. So, and when you put money in, you don't take it back out. It's like poker, you know. The person who wins the hand, the students, end up taking all the money. And so we'll see how it all goes. There's all sorts of other stuff. You know, the bobbleheads that have been circulating around over the years have a blue patch on the shirt. But that was because we spotted the blue patch on my business shirt. It has a blue patch on the pocket. We saw in the prototype that there wasn't a blue, logo. So I have the prototype. Well, I am the prototype, I guess, but I have the prototype little bobblehead that doesn't have the logo, and that one's going to go up for auction as well this year. So we'll raise money for the students. Last year, what was it, 6,400 and something, plus another 7,500 from Ali. he gave $100 for every year I was around. So he dropped a good sized chunk of dough
Nice.
for a 75th birthday, but it was for students. So, he did say that when we formed the company and we went to the first meeting together, and he saw me giving away lots of things, handing out money to students and things like that. He expected to get in business, your business partner goes out on a business trip, there's business expenses. He expected to see an expense report with all sorts of things that I have spent money on it. And when he never got any expense reports, he started to wonder, well, are you like saving them up or what's the deal? He asked me, and I said, no, that's my expense. I don't expect the company to be making my charitable donations for me, so feel free, jump right on in. The water's fine. You feel free to make donations. So, and he has. I mean, he's a generous soul anyway.
October 8th, 9th, 10th. There's a few seats available, and we are live streaming it, and we will be doing a recording, correct, Jay?
Yeah, and I think we're down to maybe 16 seats left out of the 80 that are possible. And there may be one or two people that, something comes up. So if there's a waiting
list. Like me looking in the window?
Now there's a scary thought.
Yeah, we had them put in blackout shades this year, Pete. No.
You have to raise them.
But, we intend to have a lot of fun and a lot of good science. And the two things together make for a really good weekend. So, pop in, enjoy the event and the knowledge and the camaraderie, and meet some new friends and see some old friends. And, I have a total inability to get out and around to other meetings. So if it weren't for my friends coming here, I would be kind of isolated. And it's a huge treat for me to have all these people pop in from around the world. And it's humbling to see them all pop in. But I'm gonna keep trying it every year until they won't show up.
We'll be there.
So,
and you know where else we'll be? Every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Q&A. You drive the content. You ask the questions, we answer. If we can't figure it out on Wednesday, we always got the Thursday show to get everybody together and say, hey, we got stumped on this one, Jay. What do you think?
Well, it's not just me. I mean, she's, Mari's as sharp as a tack. So
we need her for Thursdays. What the hell do we talk about on Wednesday? With Joshua Moore and Anthony Raymond.
Somebody's got to keep me straight, So.
Keep you in line.
Everybody, you have a great weekend. Thanks for showing up, guys. I totally appreciate it.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye.
All right, guys. Bye. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the show and want to help us keep it going, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps improve the content and brings on great guests and grow the show. Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/NeuroNoodle. But hey, if supporting financially isn't in the cards right now, no worries. You can still help us out for free by liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. It really makes a difference and helps more people find the show. If we've earned it, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. The NeuroNoodle Podcast is supported by listeners and businesses just like you. Hey everyone, here's a quick message from our good old buddy Joshua Moore at Alternative Behavioral Therapy.
I'm preparing to do an introduction to QEEGD phenotypes. This is my first workshop on the topic, and this is just the introductory overview of the project. This is going to be very, very basic. So let's review each phenotype. We're just going to go through them one by one. If you look at the DSM-1, 2, or 3, and you look at the first chapter, it actually acknowledges that the DSM in mental health is just, quote, a descriptive adaptation, unquote. We're going to customize the interventions and tailor them to the individual's brain activity, not just applying the treatments or trainings to the individual's phenotype and maybe even their variants, but also customizing the protocols themselves to fit that person's individual unique frequency patterns. Maybe a dozen ways to have excessive energy in your nervous system, and then there's an infinite amount of ways to relate poorly to that excessive energy, which means that there is a lot of variations in what someone might call anxiety. And that doesn't mean that we're talking about the same thing when we're talking about anxiety. So complicated stuff. But when we look at a brain map, we get some basis in which we can start talking about what is this energy. Then we have to go to the client. We have to start talking to the client about what is your association to this specific kind of energy that I can see now. Then we get to care about things that insurance doesn't restrict us on. We get to care about like the person in a broader way. 85% improvement in mental health report following pairing a medication with a specific phenotype. Geez. Okay, have you seen 85% in any mental health studies for any medication? I'm going to be going over a whole bunch of different types of tests, assessments, and things that can be used that have things called neurocorrelates, which you saw some of those already, better success outcomes. That's what we really want. We need better predictive power. We need better individualization. That's what we want.